What's up? This is Emilio with Quick Property Solutions, and in this video today I am actually walking down Woodward in downtown Detroit. As you can see, kind of doing something a little bit different here today. I just kind of want to show not only me walking through houses and stuff like that. Wanted to come down here and you know, walk down Woodward, check out the progress going on, and it's pretty awesome. So I'm gonna have that in the background there. Video I'm going to be talking about today is where should I buy in Detroit? Detroit is a really large city, and a lot of investors that are coming from out of state, out of town, out of the country. And the issue is this. The issue for me answering that question is I can't tell you because everybody is different. My buying criteria is different than your buying criteria. I don't flip. I mostly buy rentals. Even my strategy for buying rentals is different than somebody who's buying rentals and doing it all cash. It might be different from somebody that's buying rentals on a burst strategy where they buy it, rehab it, rent it, and then refinance it. And then I also, again, don't flip. So there are people out there that want to buy rentals and are looking for cash flow, but there are other people out there that are looking for properties to flip. And it's really difficult for me to tell you where to purchase because people are like, well, what are some of the top neighborhoods? But in my mind, they are top neighborhoods for rentals. They're good neighborhoods for flips. So in this video, I'm gonna give you 3 rules, count them, simple, 1, 2, 3 rules for where to buy in Detroit. Not only am I gonna give you the 3 rules for buying in Detroit, but I'm gonna give you 3 tips as well, and hopefully these tips will help you in whatever investment strategy that you're doing. And if you like the channel, if you like what I'm talking about, if you're interested in investing in Detroit, there's a link below. If you want to reach out to me, ask me questions. If you're looking for property management, if you're looking for rehab, if you're looking for off-market deals, reach out to me, use my network. I also have a real estate investing course specifically for Detroit. And in that real estate course, I talk about different zip codes. I talk about different ways to build your team, things to look out for when you are investing in the city. So if you're interested in purchasing that course and supporting the channel, please click on the link below. Also, like and subscribe to the channel. I'm really trying to get the word out here. The purpose of me for creating these YouTube videos is because there are a lot of people looking for investment opportunities in the city of Detroit. They're getting priced out in other markets, and so more and more people are coming into Detroit. Like I said earlier, I am talking to international investors, out-of-state investors, and they are purchasing and they are rehabbing in the city. Now, before I get into the tips, I am actually right in front of the Dan Gilbert building that he's building. It's going to be one of the, I think it's the tallest building. It's going to be in the city once it's complete. It's a mixture of residential and commercial. If you look at that, that's pretty dope. They're calling it the Hudson site. So I believe this is, they have the garage over here, and this is the commercial side, maybe, and that's the residential side. I don't really know. I think it's pretty sweet. All right, so tip number 1, the first thing that I do is I do a simple Google Street View. So just take the address, go to Google, it brings up the map, and in the map you can see where you are in the city, and then I just drop a pin and I look at the house. The reason why I do that is because I particularly don't like to buy in war zones. I don't want to be the only house on the block surrounded by burnt out houses and vacant houses. I also don't want to have a house that has one house surrounded by a whole bunch of vacant land. It's something that I particularly don't like to purchase. Doesn't mean that it wouldn't be a good investment for you. And this rule kind of applies for rentals and for flips, because if you're flipping the property, people aren't going to want to buy a brand new house surrounded by burnt out homes. It doesn't mean that they're not going to purchase it, but there's more of a likely chance that you'll have a more successful flip when you're in an area where there is a community, there are neighborhoods around, there are people around. Same thing with the rental. If you're a person that's renting it, you probably don't want to be surrounded by all those houses. Again, not saying that it's not going to work. I actually know some people that would actually prefer to rent a property in Detroit surrounded by vacant land, but you know, they just like the peace and quiet. But for the most part, I think using the Google Street View is a good rule just to see if you are in a war zone or how the neighborhood looks as a whole. All right, rule number 2 is I determine the value. So determining the value, I use websites like Redfin, Zillow.com. You could also use websites like Realtor.com or Trulia. But what I like to do is I like to determine the value of the property, because that will help you understand what kind of neighborhood you're in. So for instance, if you are trying to buy a house and the typical rules are I go 3 to 6 months back, I go a mile radius out, half a mile to a mile radius out, and I kind of see like how many comps have sold in the area. So ideally, if you do that and you only see 5 comps within a half a mile to a mile radius, probably not the best place to buy, just because there's not a lot of sales in the area. Rule number 3, I use pending sales to help determine if it's a place where I want to buy. One of the buying strategies that I do, I actually like buying in areas where it's kind of unloved and you can start to see some development going on. Well, the pending sales is a good way of seeing properties jumping up in value. So pending sales doesn't necessarily mean that that property is going to close. However, they at least made an offer on the property, and what I do is I like to watch pending sales in an area where, let's say, the value of the properties are 50 to 60 grand, but if I'm starting to see pending sales tick up to 75 to 95, you know, I'm starting to see people willing to pay those prices. Whether it closes or not, people are willing to pay for it. However, they do have to go through financing, they do have to go through a lot of underwriting to get that property sold. But the pending sales is a good rule for understanding if it is an area in Detroit that you would want to buy. All right, now that I have those 3 simple generic rules, again, those are generic rules. It can apply to whatever strategy you're doing. And again, it's different for everybody, but hopefully those 3 rules help you out. Now I have 3 tips that can help you out as well. So the first tip is using the price filter when you're looking up sales comparables in the area. So like I said, if you're using Redfin or you're using Zillow or Realtor.com or whatever, you could adjust the price filters. So if you have a address, normally I do is I type in the address and there's a zip code. So what I do is I type the zip code in Redfin or Zillow, and then what it does is it shows the whole zip code, and then you go to sold comps, go 3 to 6 months back, and then it'll bring you every comp that has sold in 3 to 6 months. And then what you do is you adjust the price filter, and you could go like a minimum of 50 grand, or you could go a minimum of 75 grand, a minimum of 100 grand. And what it happens is every time you adjust the price filter, you start to see the areas in that zip code where houses worth 100 grand are selling. So what'll happen is you'll see a whole bunch of comparables, but once you start using that price filter, it'll start isolating certain, like the areas in that zip code that actually have higher value than other areas where there's no sales close to that. Tip number 2 is that if you're doing rentals, 2 of the websites that I use a website, I don't know if you call it Rentometer or Rentometer, but it's rentometer.com. That helps you determine the rents in the area, and you could do it. Provides for you the median, the lower, and the upper values, so it gives you a good range of what the rents are in the area. However, you could go to like Zillow.com, type in the address in Zillow, and it will have the rent in Zillow as well. However, Zillow just gives you one price for that rental. It doesn't give you a range of what that property could rent for. All right, before I get into the last and final tip, I want to show you this cool building. It's in the middle of Greektown. It's a bunch of condominiums, but if you can see it right here, there it is right there. Those are condominiums, and what they're doing is that they're actually building it from the top down. So what they did was they built those 2 columns right there, and then they're manufacturing the floors already pre-built, and then they're lifting it up. So they did this first floor here, and then they built each level, and then they just lifted it up. They raised up each floor, so they're just building it from the top down instead of the bottom up. It's kind of really interesting engineering. Anyways, so tip number 3 is you know, zip code by zip code, block by block, street by street. I say it's like one of the #1 rules in Detroit, because if you have a zip code, you'd be like, oh, what zip code should I buy in? But the thing is you could have a great zip code, but the block could be messed up. Or you could have a really good block and one street will be messed up. It's not uncommon to see a really good neighborhood, an amazing street, and literally the street over will be almost vacant. It's very common, and that's why when you are investing, you have to do your own due diligence. So if you are running the numbers and you're looking at comparables in the area, doing the Google Street View thing really helps with even running the comps, because one thing that someone said, well, there's no sales in the area, it must be a bad area. That's not necessarily true, because in some areas in Detroit, there's a lot of people that don't sell. The neighborhood is so strong, people don't want to sell. So when people don't sell, it looks like no one's really buying in that area. But a lot of those houses in Detroit, like, no one's really selling. They're not willing to sell their house at all. So you want to just do your own due diligence, and using the Google Street View, using the comps, using common sense, and then running your numbers, knowing the values of the property, knowing the rents in the area, and just understanding this area better. You know, I really believe in Detroit, and if you're watching this channel, you're still watching this video, obviously you do too. You believe in the comeback of the city. So listen, if you liked watching the channel, if you like the video, please subscribe to the channel, comment below, let me know more about your investing. Again, you know, check out that Detroit real estate investing course. If you want to support the channel, it's reasonably priced, and I'm out there just trying to share knowledge. So thank you so much for everybody for watching. Talk to you soon.